Welcome back to the midday session. For the record, on the Law and Crime Network, I am Linda Kenney Baden, and boy, what a show we have for you today. And a little bit of a surprise. As you know, this morning, my husband, who happens to be a forensic pathologist by the name of Dr. Michael Baden, released some of his findings on the Jeffrey Epstein review of the autopsy that he did for one of the family members. And he will be joining us here today at 2 o'clock in an exclusive interview on the Law and Crime Network. And he will be releasing exclusive findings and a diagram that you have not has not been seen before. So you have to stay tuned here for 2 o'clock on the Law and Crime Network. I will be joined by Brian Ross, and it'll be something that has never been shown before today.
In the days and hours.
More demeaning, because 47,000 texts, she said. Well, let me introduce, because we have a lot to talk about, my guest to talk about this today. First, let me introduce Remi Spencer from New Jersey. I love it when people are from New Jersey. I have to apologize to my other guests. You are a trial attorney. You do everything, right?
That's correct.
You're in New Jersey. You were a prosecutor in Union County, New Jersey.
That's right.
And then you came over to the good side.
That's right.
Okay.
And a fellow Jersey girl.
And fellow Jersey person. And Kirk Burkhalter, you have been a police officer. You are an attorney, a trial attorney, a professor. Talk about, I want to just go hide under the table here because my guests are just so fabulous. Welcome again. I love to see you. And then I'm going to steady my heart, because I hate to tell you, I have somebody on that is a surprise to me today, because usually he is taken by that other Jersey guy, Bob Bianchi. But it is Gene Rossi. My heart, Gene. Yes, hello. As Bob would say, 41-42 or 40-41, or how many shots you shot in those basketball games. But more importantly, you're a former U.S. attorney for many years. You just know everything. If I need any information, I come to you, and I'm so glad you're going to be on. Two of my main men on with me today. How can you not love this show? So, Gene Rossi, let me ask you this. All right, yeah. She fled to South Korea, but if somebody decided they want, is the difference that somebody decided they want to kill themselves, or that she prodded somebody who had maybe had a little bit of a mental disease, maybe needed help, into killing somebody in Inyoung? And the killing somebody was the fellow student Alexander Utula.
Well, I mean, this is basically a case of death resulting, where I give a pain pill to somebody, and I don't intend them to die, but my actions are so reckless it causes somebody to take their life. That's basically the theory you have here. I don't think she, even with these texts, I don't think she intended for him to die. But she didn't save him either. She was there at the parking garage. I don't know. I think there's an argument made that the nexus is just not there, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, we will. Remi Spencer, I was appalled at this, and it was interesting, though. This case is from Massachusetts, and Massachusetts also had the Michelle Carter case. And the reason why is because they have something called involuntary manslaughter. So the DA has a case presented to them with facts. They don't have to say, you died by texting, you died by domestic violence because of texting. This was involuntary manslaughter, and the facts show that you shouldn't have done what you did that caused the death of this young man. What say you in response to Gene Rossi?
Well, I mean, you're right. I think the the disregard for someone's safety, the willful actions that this woman took, I think they were absolutely intended for him to harm himself. I think that the 75,000 text messages between these two students will demonstrate that her intention was for him to hurt himself, to kill himself. So I think that the voluntary nature of the manslaughter, that her willfulness and her intentional acts, even though she didn't physically kill him, were really just the same as if she did.
Professor, really, really quickly, okay? Let me just ask you one question. If you were a professor and you were teaching this, yes or no, would you tell your students this was involuntary manslaughter or no?
Depending on the content of the text. So you have 47,000 texts in 2 months. That comes to about 758 texts per day, roughly. And that's sending one text message every 2 minutes for 2 months.
Wow, you are prepared. I'll continue this conversation with you, but let's listen to more of the press conference discussing by the prosecutor, the district attorney, the comparisons and the differences between this and Michelle Carter. Professor, lawyer Kirk Burkhalter, let's continue that discussion.
Sure.
She just said that there is a bill before the legislature to make encouragement of suicide a crime. But what if you have somebody who's dying, who's going to terminally ill, and they want to not have medical treatment, for instance, and you say, you know, it's your choice. Isn't that overbroad? Isn't that an overreaction to what's going on here with the text messages between kids?
It certainly could, and I would assume, or hopefully, that there would be some type of carve-out that specifically addresses assisted suicide. Now, that's not opining on whether assisted suicide should be legal or not. I'm simply saying that that is a situation that deserves a particular carve-out and should be addressed in particular by such a statute. Clearly, this is a problem with young folks who are, in some misguided way, encouraging other folks to commit suicide.
Right, terrible. And Gene Rossi, as a federal prosecutor, I know you didn't have this at this point because most of us didn't have all the cell phones and the texts, and that's how everybody communicates now. No one speaks to each other. But she spoke to him, Mr. Utula, through the text. His parents drove to watch his graduation, and what they found, instead of a cap and gown, is a dead child. I can't get over that, quite frankly.
Well, I'm going to go with what the professor said. There are 47,000 texts, and I'm sure not everyone says, I want you to die, take your life. These are young people. They are young people. And today, texting is a form of weaponizing. So all I want to say is it sounds horrible. The circumstances of his death are horrible. But we got to focus on what are the elements of the crime. And this case sort of reminds me of Dr. Kevorkian, who had people come to him and say, I want to die. I had a case involving Dr. Kevorkian indirectly, and Dr. Kevorkian helped them take their lives. He went to trial a couple of times. I think he was found guilty. This is a little bit similar to that.
And Remi Spencer, let me just ask you this. Does cases like this indicate that we need to get more mental health resources to our young people who may not come forward, may not be identified except by somebody who's a predator or a domestic abuser and says, aha, I can really play with his mind and exercise control?
Linda, you're absolutely right. If there's any good to come out of these two tragic cases, is the spotlight that it places on the need for mental health treatment and counseling for young adults. Words have power. And these children or these young adults may not realize the power of their words. And since they can exchange these hateful, dangerous words to each other so quickly by text message, there has to be an education. I think the law is overbroad, as you also pointed out, but things need to change.
And you know what? We're going to discuss this in light of also the Michelle Carter case when we come back, the weaponizing of text message. Stay tuned.